Hello, everyone. This is Jody Grinwald, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. This week, I welcome Jason Spiewak, founder and CEO of JLS Artist Management and Noble Steed Music. In this episode, Jason shares the importance of paying attention to the signals that you may be getting and that are pulling you in a certain direction. That is what he did, and what a journey it has been for him. Jason learned the music business on the independent side of the record company world with early work experience at Artemis Records, Studio E Records, and TVT Records. Jason co-founded the Warner Music distributed label Rock Ridge Music in 2004, later to be named that company's president. Under Jason's leadership, the label enjoyed the success of high-charting releases by Sister Hazel, Rachel Platten, Five Bolt Maine, and #1 jazz record by former baseball great Bernie Williams, just to name a few. He now manages artists like Konstantin Maroulis, Toby Lightman, and many more that you can view on jasonspiewak.com. Jason has been a Grammy Voting member since 2003 and is an accomplished producer, pianist, studio musician, and songwriter. Additionally, Jason donates his time to the Music is Love Exchange, a charitable organization that leads groups of musicians and fans to Guatemala annually for week-long service trips. Please subscribe on the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and stream on all popular streaming sites. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed having this conversation. Have a fabulous week. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Today is the Day Changemakers, where I get to interview the most amazing people who are doing amazing things all over the world. And today, none other than Jason Spiewak, we have, who is the president and founder of JLS Artist Management and Noble Steed Music, is with me today. Hey, Jason, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jody. How are you?
I am good. I'm so blessed to be able to interview people like yourself, those who are doing amazing work, connecting people and just making some magic happen. I want to just read a little bit about your incredible bio, and then we'll get into our conversation. But Jason was one of the youngest label presidents in Warner Music history, sitting at the helm of Rock Ridge Music at the age of only 27, and then for 8+ years before transitioning into artist management. He is an accomplished music business professional with credits and accomplishments on stage as well as in the office. I loved that it said that on stage as well as in the office. I thought that was a great way to put that. And his production credits include so many: Tony Luca, Pat McGee, Ernie Halter, and his studio piano credits include Perfect Strangers featuring Bruce Willis and Halle Berry. Oh my gosh, I remember that show, Jason.
It was a great one, and I was there for all the studio sessions recording piano for that film, but I didn't get to attend on the day that they shot a scene that included the band as like background actors. What are you gonna do?
I know, but you're bringing me back with that name of that show. And then also, which is so cool, and we're going to talk about, that you're also a Grammy voting member since 2003 and have an affiliation with the CMA as well. So that's incredible. So I can't wait to hear more about that as we go through our conversation.
Absolutely.
Obviously, your background is music, and and everybody knows that that's my livelihood in way of the thing that I love the most is the Applauder Kids Foundation, where we're connecting kids to music. So I'd love to know, what is your background in music? When did you start feeling that pull towards music in your life?
Well, thanks for the question, and again for this opportunity to chat. I have to first kind of pause the interview and share some mutual admiration. I really do enjoy and respect and admire the work that you and your crew are doing with Applaud Our Kids. It's just so awesome. I'm a dad, and my kids are 14 and 11, and both of them have been able to enjoy the benefit of arts instruction. My son was a dancer for years, and my daughter has a beautiful voice and she loves to sing. And so I can't imagine what their lives would be like if they didn't have access to the arts. And so I'm really inspired by the work that you're doing as well. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, thank you so much. And we can't thank you enough for agreeing to be a part of what we're doing, helping us with our songwriting competition that we can talk about in a little bit. And so thank you for those kind words.
Absolutely. So I got into music, just sitting at the piano as a curiosity. My dad was a brilliant guitar player, and he tried to introduce me to the guitar as an instrument, but I have I've got these delicate fingers, and I had the strings just kind of dug into them, and I didn't enjoy that. And so the piano was like a more natural translation for me. Started with lessons when I was about 11 or 12. Stuck with it all the way through high school. Studied jazz in high school. That was pretty transformative for me. And then in college, I had my technique and my spirit broken by an amazing professor, a guy named Steven Smith, who basically taught me how to actually play the instrument. And I spent 3 hours a day, a true 3 hours a day, in rehearsal rooms and basements at Penn State, trying to, in earnest, cut my teeth as a classical piano player. And I was told at the end of my freshman year that I was going to have to practice for 5 hours a day and repeat my freshman year. So I punted on that and decided to get a degree in psychology and start a band.
You went totally different.
Yeah, it's and I'm grateful for that experience because it set me on the path that I ended up on. But who are we without our failures, right?
We learn from every single thing. And, I think that's the thing too, is about, it's not really failure, because failure sounds so negative, right? I feel like it's just challenge. And if we don't do well at it, teaches us a lot, and we can learn from other people's as well. So when was that first time that your fingers kind of touched the piano? How old were you?
I don't remember. I've always been drawn to music and to the instrument specifically. The piano. I remember my dad owning a keyboard before we ended up getting a proper piano a little bit later, and I love the sound. I love the sound of it. I always had the ability to kind of pick up a melody and then sit and try to play it, and so that's really what continues to pull me to the instrument. Earlier this morning we just had music on here, and I've heard a familiar song from like the 80s or 90s and sat down and just tried to plunk it out and play it. And that was one of the big, important things that I did as a kid. I didn't understand what I was doing at the time, but it was such a good skill to learn. I would sit, and before music on demand, we just had to listen to the radio. I'm 44 years old. I was born in 76. And so, the best we could do is to use a cassette tape to try and record your favorite song on the radio when it was on.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you remember doing that, but it's like I would just sit and the radio would play a song and I'd sit at the piano and try to play it. And sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it was such amazing ear training, and it's a skill that I've carried forward successfully to this day.
So that kind of leads into my next question, which is, what has music really given you throughout your life?
I mean, it's given me everything, all of the professional experiences that I've had, fortunately have been in or surrounding music. Working in music at a high level, I've been fortunate enough to work in other areas, TV, film, some new media stuff. But again, it all really starts with music, and I'm extremely grateful, very lucky. I knew at a young age what I wanted to do for a living, and I can point to, loving Billy Joel as a kid and thinking, oh, that's cool. I want to do that for my job. I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew at 7 or 8 that was what I wanted to do.
Do you play other instruments besides piano?
Yeah, I'm also a drummer. I like to say I've played the piano and the drums in public. Everything else is for my enjoyment only, or in a studio. I mean, in tight spots, I've had to pick up a bass guitar or a regular guitar or a horn to try and squeak out a small part for a studio recording. But for the most part, it's, I'm only willing to claim piano and drums.
That's so funny. Well, in your bio, you say you're on stage and in the office. So let's talk a little bit about the on stage part. So what have give us a little bit of background about the types of music you love to perform, where you've performed, a little bit more about your entire on stage part of your life.
I'm a gamer. I just love to play, and so I've been a part of shows that have rehearsed painstakingly and carefully for weeks. I've also attended shows where I've received a text message saying, I'm going to call you up on stage in 10 minutes. Get ready. So It's not, the party is on stage at these shows. And so for me, the thing that really propels me forward is feeling connected to other musicians, which has been so difficult in the pandemic. Um, but it's a vibe and it's a communication level. And I'm not sure if I'm even answering the question that you asked, but so to get back to my roots a bit, I at Penn State was lucky enough to form a band with some friends. Our name was Blue Suede Groove. We played drinking music for fraternity dudes in backwards white baseball caps. Um, Started out covering like Dave Matthews Band and Fish and the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers, and eventually started writing some of our own material, put out 3 records, toured from Canada to Florida. We played the Molson Sun and Snow Festival up in Canada, and a bunch of other notable shows. And it wore me down, to be honest with you, Jody. It was really, the road is tough, and the show is only 1 hour out of 24 in the day, and it definitely wore on me. And so after 5 years of playing in a band, I crossed over to the dark side and got an assistant job at a record company.
Yeah, which is a great lead into my next question, because the fact that you were 27 when sitting at the helm of Rockridge Music, and obviously you didn't necessarily start there, like you said, you went into and worked at a label. So tell us a little bit about that transition and how you made that happen. How did you sit at such a great spot at 27? Because I'm sure there are plenty of 27-year-olds who'd love to have had that position.
Well, I worked hard, is the truth. I was super hungry when I crossed over from playing in a band to being an assistant. It was humbling. I answered a telephone, and I had to learn how to do paperwork and filing and accounting and tracking invoices. And, I was a quick study. I read every piece of paper that I could get my hands on. I was very, very lucky in that I was mentored directly by a very smart, kind-hearted man, a guy named Michael Crumper, who was my first boss at Artemis Records. He mentored me a ton. Christina Zafiris mentored me a ton. Daniel Glass, Danny Goldberg. And, so in the music business, it is generally a young person's business. There's a lot of men and women under 35 who are holding all kinds of positions. And so, when I got promoted internally at Artemis, or later at TVT Records, I worked at a few indie labels before Rockridge. It wasn't that big a deal. It was only when I took the leap from being, basically a coordinator level marketing person to running Rockridge that some people started to take notice, and I would get called into meetings and hear lovely things like, "I expected you to be older and fatter and balder." And look, I'm 44 now, so I'm lucky I still have some hair to speak of. In the Peloton, it's good. I'm one of those kids who can have no cookies, Jody. Like it immediately goes to my gut and my ass. It's terrible. Not a good situation.
I'll get older. I used to be able to eat, like years ago. I don't know about you, but I ate a lot of fast food. I don't do that now, but still the way I just have to look at a cookie and somehow.
No, I'm with you. I watch my son is really thin. He's lucky genetically. And man, I'm sitting, he's like, he's eating fudge stripe cookies in the kitchen one after another. And I'm just like, dude, how? This is like, he doesn't know how good he has it. I'll ask him to repeat that feat at 44 and let's see if he's willing.
I agree. I graduated high school at 99 pounds. That's a long way from there now. Yeah. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, all good.
So then so how did you make the transition from there to Rockridge? Because that was a big leap.
Well, I was working at TVT and kind of side hustling to get Rockridge off the ground while I was still employed at another label. And it was like, it was a passion project, and I worked hard and cared really deeply about it. And I wasn't working alone. When in the early days of Rockridge, we had several partners, some notable ones as well. And so it was, getting the label off the ground to a point where I could leave TVT was part of the risk reward of the whole deal.
Right.
So yeah, it was, they were tricky early days. And with Rockridge, we had a bit of fortunate, like lucky foresight. I had a background in new media, and my partner uh, in starting Rock Ridge, the guy named Tom Durr, who is still running that label. Tom was the CEO and I was the president, and we were both like founders, for lack of better words. And so at the time, we didn't even have business cards because it was he and I and a guy named Ben Miller and Chris Henderson.
Jason, you just popped out.
Early partners as well, but he was with his day out hustling, and the fortunate thing that we did is we focused on new media, we focused on digital downloads, we focused on web marketing and positioning our clients on important websites, an area that at the time 2004 2005 was not really regarded as a critical piece of marketing. At that time it was a bit more about super serving Best Buy and Trans World and Walmart and, price and positioning campaigns for physical CDs. And at Rockridge, we were doing that work, but I think also really emphasizing the digital component, which turned out to be really forward thinking.
And then how are you working with your clients? How are you getting your clients? What was your strategy around that?
Well, at the time, there was a massive transition that occurred in the mid 2000s in the music world, where a lot of heritage acts who had built up huge following and had the ability to tour and were fully functioning businesses themselves, they were getting pushed out of major label deals in favor of younger artists. And some of it was because of politics, and some of it was regime change. And there was a lot of pressure on record companies, all of them being like publicly held at that time. Warner Music, which, very famously stopped becoming a public company for a while. They're now a public company again. But all these companies were under tremendous pressure to show gains. And so we were in the position of cutting deals with artists that had sort of fallen out of the ivory tower to a certain degree, or those that were bold enough to choose independence. Like my first management client was a band named Sister Hazel, who had a bunch of hits in the 90s and early 2000s, most notably All For You, their number one. And Hazel had deals on the table from all the majors and said, no, basically, we want to go independent and put out our own records. And so it was through Sister Hazel initially that I found my professional independence from working at record companies.
Wow, and I know Sister Hazel, so that was great. I'm glad you gave that example. It's a great song. So that's it.
Yeah, oh yeah, and they're wonderful guys too.
So that's awesome. What would you say from that experience was your biggest learning? If you had to choose one, because I'm sure there was a lot. What did you take away with you to your next role?
Ah, man, I was really blessed by my own ignorance, to be honest with you. There were so many choices that there is no way I would have made them had I really known what I was doing. Seriously. And there's a power in that. And I think that there is, not to say that one shouldn't be cautious, because you definitely need to have information going into situations, but I had a lot of internal confidence and instincts that proved to be productive more often than not. But the thing that I really needed to learn that I hadn't learned yet was, some perspective lessons on why I'm doing this. In the excitement of signing artists and getting a record company off the ground and finding success and all the rest of it. Also at the time, like a big part of my personal story, unfortunately, is my dad died of leukemia when he was 56. And so he was diagnosed as ill in 2005. So just a year after we started Rock Ridge as an experiment, and he passed away 2 years later. And so all of these things really left me feeling a bit lost in the woods, dealing with a lot of different stuff. And I didn't take enough time then to ask myself, why am I doing this? Like, what is this? What does it mean? Who am I serving? What am I getting out of it? And that's a skill that I'm grateful to have now, because I think it's a really important question.
No, and it is really important because a lot of people don't take the time to think about, you get into something and you don't start thinking about why am I really doing this? Who is it for? Why am I, who am I serving? And I love that. And that is really, I think it's important. And it's a great message for those listening right now. Once this podcast it launches, is to really question that in your life. And I know, we started the Zach G. Uploader Kids Foundation because of my dad. Obviously, you know that. And when you lose someone, the questions start to open up that you start asking, when you lose somebody that close to you.
Right. Well, no, and you did the work and found a really great and compelling answer to that question. So that's, it's inspirational to all of us. And I think that there are lessons in that. And to whoever is watching and listening, if there's something that has arisen in you, you just had a thought like, oh, really, like I should do this and that. Like, don't let that be fleeting. Pull out a pen and paper or open an email or text or something and act on that impulse, because too many of us get the signal and then we ignore it and then the flare is gone.
You said something that goes really well with that, and I'm glad you brought that back up because I wanted to mention it. You said something about the ignorance kept you even, actually was a good thing in a way, because that fear, if you had the fear, you might not go, you think about a child, right? They might do something and then they might fall. And if the parent makes a big deal about it, then the child cries, right? But beyond that, the child doesn't have any fear and doesn't really even feel the pain because there was no fear before they actually took that step. And it's kind of, I thought of that for some reason when you said that. It's that if you didn't do all those things without taking a little bit of risk, just like we didn't, I've been in nonprofit for a very long time, but I never started a nonprofit. And if I sat and thought about all the things that could go wrong, nothing. We would all do nothing.
That is real talk right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's an important balance between, okay, we're not talking about, taking leaps that are irresponsible, but if like what you said, if there's something burning inside of you, even if you don't have the money and if you don't think you have the time and you don't think, there's still a way. It's taking the first step, whatever that first step is. It could just be research, but at least you're taking the step.
No, that's right. And I think that there are always fear voices in our heads, right? It's about quieting those, and nobody has all of the money they want. Nobody has all the time they want. You just have to figure out how to make the most of what you got.
Absolutely. Yes. What is that? The angel and the devil. It depends on which shoulder, is talking to you at what time.
Right. Oh, no, they're both devils. It's both devils.
Both devils. No, I don't believe this, Jason, of you.
It's okay. That's right.
At least you're honest about it, right? That's okay.
Or I don't know. Yeah, it's like a weird analogy too. It's like, am I the angel in that scenario? That's just, I don't know. No way. It's no, it just can't be. It's not, we are balanced, if nothing else. On a good day. On a bad day, I'd rather not figure that out.
Yeah, and that's okay because we're allowed those days every once in a while, right? We have to. There has to have those days where we're just not
sure. They occur whether we want them to or not.
Yeah, it's just ride the wave. That's what it really is about. So I know next up has been JLS Management and Noble Steed Music, and it's so exciting. And I just want to preface that I met you because Amy Boroff connected us. I love Amy. Amy's awesome, and I didn't know. Like I had this whole new learning experience about JLS, about you, and it's been such a great opportunity to meet you and research and see all the things that you're doing. But if you can share, because I'm sure there are people like me who didn't really know about all the things that you've been doing. And then we can talk about, Music is Love Exchange too in a little bit as well.
Yeah, of course. Look, I'm grateful for my path in music. And when I left Rockridge to start JLS and Noble Steed, my intention was not for my company to be famous. It was never about, look at us, look at me, look at what we're doing. It's always about the records that we're promoting, the artists that we serve. And, we operate with a mantra of great music will always find an audience. And that's our guiding principle, because there's a lot of music being made these days. And we want the great music to be heard. And so there are things that we do from a marketing perspective. There are steps that we take when our clients are making records, and, we try and move from strength to strength. And so for our clients, we try and encourage collaboration with each other, with folks beyond the walls of our company. And, it's been especially in COVID times, I think that the intention and focus of JLS has been even stronger
Mm.
because we know what the work is, and we know what it is that we want to accomplish. And so my team and I have been communicating really well, and just trying to focus on doing that work. And for us, we're a management company first. I think Rockridge Music was a record company first, and as a management company first, we get to answer the question, is this right for the artist? Which is an important question. And we also want to answer the question, is this going to make a record company money? But running a label, you got to answer that question before the other. And so I'm better at answering the is it right for the artist question first, because yes, I want to make money. I am a for-profit business, but there are ways to do that while still, developing artists the right way and protecting the integrity of the process.
So I was on your website and I was listening to, you have snippets of your different artists and their song. Truly, like I had it on in the background while I was working because I wanted to listen to it. And I have to say, I mean, so much talent. Now, are you finding them? Are they coming to you, or is it just a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. I mean, at this point, because the internet, it's all pretty transparent. I don't put up high walls in between myself and unsigned artists. I was an unsigned artist. It was how I got into the business. And so if it weren't for the good graces of people in the industry willing to take the time to educate me and bring me along, I never would have made it this far. But you know, we're plenty busy. And that's not to sound arrogant. I'm grateful for it. And so we move really carefully when it comes to signing a new artist for management, or signing a record and putting it out, because it's a bunch of mini marriages. And so
Mm.
we want to make sure that the relationship is a fit, and really most importantly that we can deliver on the goals that the artist has. And everyone wants to be successful, but people define success in many different ways. And so we strive to try and figure out the moments where we can accomplish the success that is desired, while being like reasonable, and doing what can be done.
What type of artists do you represent? Is there a specific genre?
No, we're genre blind. I mean, we are the record company. Um, we provide label service rather for Chris Bosch, the former NBA great. He has an imprint out of Austin, Texas called Daddy Jack Records. He and his team, that include his beautiful wife Adrienne and his executive Soraya, they make the records and then they turn them into me and my team, and we market and promote them. And Daddy Jack has had some great releases, and last year and into this year, I just put out a song featuring Chris Bosch and Rico Love. That's like kind of a smooth R&B cut. And then last year, Deborah Cox collaborated with Chris on a Christmas song, and it's been really cool. And so we work in hip hop, we work in rock. Konstantin Maroulis has a great record that came out last summer that we're still promoting and marketing. Toby Lightman, brilliant singer-songwriter. Paul Fow, Hey Monet, Megan Farrell. Brooke Morber is a country artist, a pop-leaning country act that's signed to Reviver in Nashville. And we also manage a mixer producer, a fellow named Craig Alvin, who most notably won a Grammy for mixing Casey Musgrave's record.
Oh my goodness. All amazing names making great music. And honestly, right now, in the pandemic, if you're, we're all sitting in our sweats, we're not putting our suits on anymore right now.
Yeah, true.
And what do, right? What do? You throw on some music in the background, right? I mean, we need that connection. That connection doesn't go away. I feel like we need it more than we ever did before, because we need to feel that. I was just telling somebody, I'm like, I have my Saturday morning dance parties in the house. You have to.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you need that connection. So what are your artists doing right now to stay connected and with their fans too, right? Because you've got to stay connected with your fan base and keep that growing. And this is a tough time. You can't get up in front of, audiences. And of course, we know the shows are awesome and we miss them. So what's that alternative?
The internet is great. Social media is great. And there are plenty of opportunities to connect. It's about making those connection points meaningful. That's so tricky. Everyone's got a bunch of things going on and everyone is available. On the professional side, it's been a great moment for me to try and connect with peers. Managers don't often deal with other managers unless we're marketing and promoting a tour together or we've been thrown together through some kind of collaboration. Um, I've just been hitting up other managers who I admire or I'm curious about and saying, hey, you want to take 20 minutes? I'll get to know you and your story. And that has been really cool and interesting professionally. On the artist side, I think you're asking a really important question. I think it's one that we're trying to figure out the answer to like every day. Constantine has a huge fan base and lots of people want to connect with him. He's been able to do that profitably through outlets like Cameo. And then also, he'll do like a web concert once a month or, it's coming up with those connection points is kind of easy. Again, it's just making them meaningful is tricky. Toby Lightman did a weekly web concert, I think on Friday evenings early in the pandemic. And then when things felt like they were getting better in the summer, we stopped. And Toby recently reinstated those. So, we're trying to answer the call. We're trying to find out where people are making time for music to creep in, and we want to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, we're hosting open mic nights once a month, to keep and it's kids and adults that come on, and we've had a 3-year-old up to an 83-year-old come on and perform, and from all over the country. And sometimes there's 30 people for open mic, and sometimes there's 100 people. It all depends on the night, like you said. You just don't know what everybody's schedule is like. But the winter seems to be the time that people at least will come on a Zoom, and we've so interactive. We do a sing along at the end. And you're obviously, any of your artists are always welcome to join any of our open mics. I think the kids would love that. But all I could say is that we've seen that connection really helped people. They don't feel like they're in their living room anymore when they, hear an artist and it's live.
That's what it's all about, is that, like I said earlier, the party is on stage. And so the fact that you're willing to host an open mic and let people participate in that exchange is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And people, what I love about it is we open the chat box and we tell everybody, since you can't really clap and feel it, start posting comments that are positive so that while that person's performing, they see it and it's popping. And we have like 900 chat box messages by the end of the night. It's actually hysterical. But
nice.
We need that connection. I of course found in your bio very interesting that you are a Grammy voting member. So tell us a little bit about that. That sounds super exciting.
Well, it's funny. I didn't really set out to vote for the Grammys. What I wanted to do was to play on records. So when I started at Artemis in 2001, I became friendly with a few people that were busy making records for the company, but I think most notably a staff producer, a guy named Matt Chiravelli, who's a brilliant recording engineer, guitar player. I believe he works for J-Lo these days. And Matt and I became friends. We had a mutual enjoyment for inappropriate jokes. And, I would always make an excuse to linger in the studio and see what was going on. And Matt was busy like making records for the company. And I was just super curious. And so I asked Matt to record some songs that I had been working with, and I'd formed a band with the drummer from Blue Suede Groove, and bass player was a guy who worked at Artemis, Greg Eckelman. And the three of us made a little trio record, and I played some shows on that, just on the heels of playing in the band. And it's funny, I like to joke about this. It's like super self-deprecating. The Village Voice wrote that I'm a bitter, jaded, trite, watered down alternative Billy Joel. And that was the nicest thing they said, Jody. It was not a great review.
No.
But
sorry.
What he's gonna do? Nah, it's fine.
That's awful. But you know what? I guess everything's a learning experience. The Village Voice actually had something to say. I guess just wasn't the right thing, but they had something.
So think it can't all be good press, Jody. That's just not. Nope.
No,
But
it's all about the drama, right? It's always about they love to put this, they don't put all the good stuff, right? All of the nice nonprofit stuff that we're all doing out there.
right, you know what? It's okay. Well, that's not why we're doing it. We're not doing it for the green ink.
No. So then what happened? How did you get to be a Grammy voting member from that?
Right. Sorry, I lost track of your question. So
No, you're fine.
I started playing sessions. Matt was kind enough to hire me to play the piano on a few records that he was making. And, friends of friends started to take notice. And to vote for the Grammys, you have to accumulate 6 recording credits. And I was able to do that very quickly. I was actually eligible to vote for the Grammys, I think in 2002. I just didn't know it. And so in 2003, one of their marketing emails hit my inbox, and I signed up, and they were quick to approve me because I had done the things you were supposed to do. I had a misconception about the Grammys. I had assumed that the Grammys were voted for by record company people. And the truth is that they're not. They're voted for by Recording Academy people. And so it bears to reason, like, okay, so if you want to be a member of the Recording Academy, then you have to make meaningful contributions to recordings. So I started doing that early in my career, not to vote for the Grammys, but it's a cool thing. I had this really, again, like the arrogance of youth, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young idiot, I said, I'm never going to go to the Grammys until I have a client nominated.
Okay.
And ironically, it's like a little bit of the curse of the Billy Goat if you're a Chicago sports fan. Like in 2002, I worked with Jimmy Vaughn, who won a Grammy for the best blues album in 2002. Jimmy Vaughn was Stevie Ray's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And, finally, I think it was like 2017, no, maybe 2018, the Grammys returned from LA to New York for a year. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to be an idiot. And so I brought Eric Davis, who works with me, and he and I had a great time. We went to the Grammys, and every other year previously, my seats were taken by seat fillers, which is like so dumb, but live and learn, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's a great story. Is it? It's totally a great story. And I'm sure, do your kids understand? I mean, I know they're young still, but do they understand like all of the things and the people that you're working with? And are they excited about your profession?
I don't know.
I know. Kids are interesting.
I don't know what it takes to make daddy cool. It's like I play. My son's really into hip hop, and so I played him a couple of the Daddy Jack singles last year when we started working with Chris. And I could see his energy kind of shift. Like, oh, this is a really good track, Dad. I was like, yeah, no, I know. And I have some gold and platinum records from my days at TVT, working with like Pitbull and Lil Jon and the Yin Yang Twins, and they're like, oh, like Pitbull. I'm like, yeah, I worked his first record. I did the search engine optimization for Pitbull's first record. When I started, my hand to God, when you Googled Pitbull, you just got a bunch of stuff about the dog. And then within 3 months, we had Pitbull at the top of Google. And anyway, so yeah, daddy's like got a cool job, but at the end of the day, dad is still dad. And so I don't know, Joey. I don't know what the hell it would take for them to think that what I do is cool, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Listen, my kids are older, and they, I obviously don't know all those people that but they don't think mom's job is cool either. So don't feel bad, even though I'm trying.
Oh, good. That's the right and natural way of things. Like one of the artists who I was lucky enough to work with was I signed Rachel Platten to her first record deal, Fight Song, and every time Rachel's on the radio, I'm like, hey kids. Couldn't possibly care less.
Right, they're still looking at their screen. They had their phone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, Rachel Platten, is she on TikTok? Like, maybe.
Yeah. If she's not on TikTok, then she's not, forget it.
She's like a multi-platinum, like world famous artist. But I'm sure that this person dancing is also very important.
I have no idea the person's name, but it's all good.
It's fine.
So funny. Yes, I heard though, I was just talking to somebody that said when your kids hit like the late 20s, you get them back again. Like somebody has always said, like teen years, it's like the aliens come, but then they bring them, but they keep the body here. But then the brain comes back in the late 20s. So I'm a little closer than you. My kids are 22 and 19. You have a little ways to go.
Cool. Well, let me know. Like, send me a postcard from the future, and I'll hold on to hope. I don't think they're ever coming back, but that's fine. They seem to be very happy where they are.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm sure. Listen, I'm still hoping. I'm still hoping. Um, when we did talk the first time, I didn't know about Music is Love Exchange, and obviously with my heart being a nonprofit and making a difference, and every single day, that really, I got very excited to hear about the work you were doing with that. And I know with COVID, it's a whole different story, but I don't know that a lot of people know Music is Love Exchange, and I think what the acronym is MILE, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's my favorite thing, and I'll talk about it quickly because I know we're a little short on time. So the Music is Love Exchange was born from my desire to connect musicians with people who needed to be lifted by music. And when my dad was sick and getting chemo and fighting leukemia, like I said earlier, he's a really brilliant guitar player. And so there was a guy who would come by the cancer ward once a week with an acoustic guitar, and he would jam with my dad. And after these jam sessions, my dad's blood counts would improve, his spirits would improve, and I got to see the power of healing through music. And as a young artist manager, we started instituting a rule of no days off on the road. So, if we had an artist who was in St. Louis on a Monday and Indianapolis on a Wednesday, then on Tuesday, we'd be visiting like the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital in Indianapolis. And the people there were brilliant to work with. And we'd go in, bring acoustic guitars, play for the kids at the bedside or play for the families in the waiting room. And no social media, no pictures, no press. We didn't do it for the accolade. We did it to do it. And that led to developing a relationship with a couple who had a house down in Guatemala. And we started taking groups of artists and fans and whoever really wants to come, as long as you're not a convicted felon. We can bring you out of the United States on public. Not my rule, on purpose, not my rules. That's just us minding our P's and Q's as a 501c3 that travels places. Right. So, pre-COVID, we had executed 9 trips to Guatemala where we had played music and painted schoolhouses and churches. And most importantly, we developed a clean water initiative that we were funding through music activity. And we provided over 110 million gallons of clean drinking water to communities in Guatemala. And it's my favorite thing. We go for a week. We do intend to go back in December of 2021 once we can know that it's safe to do it. We haven't announced the dates publicly yet, but anyone who's interested, please hit me up on Instagram at Jason Spiewak. And the MILE website is actually being recreated now. And so we're incorporating new photos and refreshing it a bunch. So the website is down at the moment, but it will be back, and it'll be, musicisloveexchange.com.
It's such a beautiful story, and I love that you're doing that. And thanks for sharing that. And I hope people will find you, those who want to go down. And I think it's so important what you said about how your father got his counts were better. He felt better. Music is a healer, and that is important. Last question for you today, Jason. I ask every single guest this question. If you knew then what you know now, what would that be?
Worry less. Worry less. I mean, so many of the problems that we wrestle with in our own minds never actually occur. And so many of the things that I worried about or were afraid were going to be obstacles or challenges never even came to pass. And so my advice to younger me, and to any younger me that is willing to pay attention, is worry less and just deal with the realities of what you're facing. If things are bad and things eventually are challenging, sure, then go ahead and fixate on that and worry about it and figure out a way out. But so much of our time is spent wrestling with overactive ego and overactive worry, and it's a waste of time. Things are going to work out.
Well, and that is a great point, and especially during a time where we have so much uncertainty and people are really not sure. Now is the time to live in the moment. And if you're feet planted on the ground, you know, you have food and shelter, you're in a good spot. If you need help, grab that help. There are people out there to help you. And that's a great, great piece of information to share with our listeners. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for all that you shared.
My pleasure, Jody. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Keep doing the great work, and we want to keep listening to all your artists. How can people find them? So what is the the website for JLS that they can go listen?
So visit us, please, at noblesteedmusic.com. All of my artists have music on Spotify and everywhere great music is sold or streamed. And check it out, you know, and let us know what you think. We definitely want to hear from fans and make this interactive.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much, Jason. And I'm going to end with what I always end with. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what steps are you going to take today to get yourself just a little bit closer to your goals? I hope everybody has a fabulous week, and we will see you next week on Today is the Day Changemakers. Have a great week. Bye.